Chosen one. The coming days will mark an important transition, not only in your own life, but also within the family into which you have been placed to love, protect, and guide. I want you to pause, not to become afraid of what is unknown, but to see clearly what is quietly being arranged around you. You prayed in silence and patiently held on to promises, even when external circumstances showed no evidence of change. There were moments when you wondered whether those prayers had disappeared into emptiness and whether your waiting had become meaningless. But I tell you that not one sincere sigh has been forgotten. What once seemed distant is gradually drawing near, not necessarily with a great sound, but through conversations beginning to open, relationships being healed, and new understanding arising within the people you love. This transition is not merely about external circumstances changing. It begins in the way you understand your role within your family. Perhaps, for many years, you felt like the different one, the person who thought more deeply, worried more intensely, and noticed fractures that others deliberately ignored. You sat among those you loved and still felt alone because no one seemed to understand what you carried within. Some regarded your sensitivity as excessive. Some called your faith unrealistic. And others simply wanted you to remain silent so that everything could continue as before. But, my child, that difference is not a curse. It is a responsibility that must be carried humbly. You were not placed within your family to judge them, nor were you given awareness so that you could consider yourself greater than anyone else. You were placed there to become someone who knows how to preserve peace when others panic. Speak words that build when the house is filled with words that wound, and open a new road when the entire family has become accustomed to circling around old pain. I know there are things passed from one generation to another that no one has ever been courageous enough to name. They may include the habit of avoiding emotion, remaining silent before injustice, using sharp words and calling it personality, or carrying fears about money, failure, and scarcity for many years. You may have grown up in an environment where love existed, but was rarely expressed properly, where people cared for one another through responsibility, yet did not know how to speak gently. Now you are being called to interrupt those cycles, not through rebellion or accusation, but through a different way of living. When you learn to apologize without shifting blame, establish boundaries without bitterness, manage what you possess wisely, and love without surrendering dignity, you open a new path for those who come after you. Do not assume that awakening within your family will occur because you speak constantly or try to force everyone to change at once. Some things can be planted only through patience. Your relatives may not yet understand what you see, and they have the right to need time. If you use your understanding like a hammer, they will only build higher walls. But if you live consistently and allow peace, honesty, and the way you face difficulty to become evidence, they will begin asking questions of their own. They may not admit it immediately, but they will notice how you no longer react as before, how you keep your word when no one is checking, and how you no longer participate in gossip or meaningless arguments. The change within you will become a quiet invitation for others to examine themselves. A new season within the family does not necessarily begin through an extraordinary event. It may begin with a meal during which people speak without attacking one another for the first time. It may be a phone call after months of silence, a late but sincere apology, or a decision to address a matter that has been postponed for far too long. Sometimes restoration appears through very practical things. Someone begins caring for their health. Spending is reorganized. Or a family member stops repeating a habit that has wounded the entire household. Do not dismiss these small movements. A great door often opens through a very small hinge. When you see goodness beginning to sprout, do not dig it up every day to inspect it. Continue watering it through prayer, patience, and kind actions that still respect healthy limits. I also want you to understand that leadership does not mean carrying everyone upon your shoulders. You cannot change someone who refuses to change. Accept responsibility for every choice your relatives make, or sacrifice yourself in order to prove that you love them. Your role is to open a road, not drag everyone forward through your own strength. Sometimes love means helping, but at other times, love means allowing someone to face the consequences of their choices. There are moments when you need to draw near and support, and moments when you must step back to preserve peace. Do not allow family responsibility to make you someone who is continually exhausted, frightened, and guilty, because you cannot rescue everyone. I gave you light to illuminate the road, not control over every step another person takes. The coming days may bring new opportunities to your family, but receive them with awareness. If a door related to work, finance, or living arrangements appears, examine it carefully together rather than allowing excitement to lead. If a relationship has an opportunity to be restored, allow forgiveness to walk beside clear boundaries. If someone who once left wants to return, look for change expressed through actions rather than promises alone. A genuine blessing will not make your family more chaotic, competitive, or suspicious of one another. It will require responsibility, transparency, and a willingness to place the common good above personal ego. Become someone who preserves a rhythm of peace during discussions. But do not become the person who always has to surrender merely to prevent conflict. True harmony is built upon truth, not upon concealing every problem. If you have ever felt like an outsider within your own family, stop interpreting that difference as proof that you do not belong. Perhaps you were placed there precisely because you carry a perspective your family needs. You understand the pain of being overlooked because you once felt unseen. You know the value of encouragement because there were seasons when you had to help yourself stand again. You understand the importance of safety because you once lived through days of constant vigilance. These experiences are not merely painful memories, they are becoming wisdom through which you can create a different atmosphere for the next generation. You may become the first person in your family to speak about what was hidden. The first to choose healing instead of continuing to pretend. And the first to demonstrate that strength does not mean coldness. My child, prepare for the new season by bringing order to your own life. Keep your word. Manage your time. Care for your health. Clarify your boundaries. And do not continue postponing necessary conversations. Do not wait only for an external miracle while the things already in your hands remain disorganized. When you become stable, you will be able to support others without being swept into their imbalance. When your words agree with your actions, your family will gradually begin trusting the direction you point toward. I do not promise that everyone will change at the same time. But one lamp being lit can still make an entire room less dark. Be that lamp through humility rather than pride. You carry more than a family name. You carry the opportunity for an old story to be rewritten in a healthier way. What once divided your family may become what teaches everyone to value one another. Seasons of scarcity may teach the household how to manage and share. Loss may help people understand that love must be expressed while there is still time. I am leading you into a new role, not so that you may rule over others, but so that you may serve with wisdom and compassion. Go before them through the way you live, not through commands. Preserve what is good, even when no one yet understands. One day you will look back and recognize that the difference that once caused you to feel alone became the key that helped your entire family step out of old cycles. A new season is drawing near, and the most precious thing will not be only what you receive, but the way peace, healing, and hope begin spreading from you toward those you were entrusted to love. I saw the moment you chose integrity even though no reward was offered. Chose self-control even though no one acknowledged it. And chose trust even when no evidence before you promised a favorable outcome. Through those quiet choices, you crossed an inner threshold that outward eyes could not perceive. There was no applause, no one standing beside you to say that you had done the right thing, and no immediate result appearing to calm every doubt. You had only a decision between what was easy and what was right, between reacting from your wound and acting from dignity, between chasing affirmation and preserving what you already knew was true. You chose the more difficult road, and that choice changed the structure within you. From that moment, you were no longer as easily directed by circumstances. You began becoming someone capable of standing still amid chaos without losing direction. Therefore, the season of remaining hidden cannot continue forever. I did not conceal you to diminish your worth, nor did I leave you behind because you were inferior to others. You were intentionally preserved so that what emerged through you would not merely attract attention for one moment and disappear. I allowed your roots to grow deep before your branches spread wide. I allowed character to form before influence expanded. I taught you to stand when no one was watching, so that when many eyes turned toward you, you would not become dependent upon them. If you had been brought forward too early, praise might have led you astray. Opposition might have caused you to shrink, and great opportunities might have become burdens you were not prepared to manage. But now delay has completed its work. What was built in darkness has become strong enough to enter the light. You are not too late, nor have you been left behind. As you sometimes believed while watching others move more quickly, every journey is measured by the depth of preparation, not merely by the speed of outward results. Some people appear early but spend years trying to recover a foundation. Some receive attention quickly but do not know how to preserve what they receive. You, however, were taught through silence, through not being chosen, through closed doors, and through times when you had to continue without encouragement. All of this has given your presence a different weight. You no longer speak merely to be heard. You no longer act only to receive recognition. You are beginning to move from a calmer place, where your worth does not change according to praise or another person's coldness. What opens from this point forward will not be easily shaken because it will not be built upon temporary emotion. New relationships will not rest only upon initial excitement, but will be tested through honesty, consistency, and respect. Opportunities coming to you will not require you to pretend to be someone else in order to remain. The work entrusted to you will not merely keep you busy, it will awaken the ability, responsibility, and purpose cultivated within you. What moves through you will not need continual praise in order to survive, because its source does not lie in the attention of the crowd. Even when no one applauds, you will still know that what you are doing carries meaning. Even when some fail to understand, you will not quickly abandon your direction merely to return to what feels familiar. The coming season will speak through results. You do not need to use many words to persuade others that you have changed. The way you respond to what once made you angry will speak for you. The way you preserve peace in circumstances that once caused panic will speak for you. The way you refuse a disrespectful closeness, not with resentment, but with clarity, will speak for you. Others will sense a steadiness before you have time to explain its source. This will not be because you have become mysterious or placed yourself above them, but because someone aligned with their deepest values carries a presence that cannot be imitated. Such alignment does not need display. It is recognized through peace, consistency, and the ability not to be pulled back into former cycles. When you stop forcing, some opportunities will find you through roads you never calculated. This does not mean you no longer need to work, prepare, or move forward. It means you no longer have to chase what requires you to surrender dignity in order to possess it. You will still knock upon the right doors, send proposals, learn, and build, but no longer from desperation. You do not need to beg others to see your value. You do not need to cling to one position merely because you fear there are no other choices. Preparation has taught you that what genuinely fits will meet your effort with a measure of mutuality. It may require you to mature, but it will not require you to erase yourself in order to be accepted. At the same time, truth is becoming clearer around you. As you begin living more honestly, what is false will no longer hide as easily. Some masks will fall, not because you attempt to expose anyone, but because you stop maintaining the conditions that allowed concealment. When you stop continually yielding, the motives of someone who desires control will become apparent. When you begin asking questions, empty promises will no longer be enough to persuade you. When you require respect, those who benefited from your silence may become uncomfortable. Do not panic when such reactions appear. You are not destroying something good. You are merely seeing the true nature of what survived only through uncertainty. Clarity sometimes appears in the form of loss. Some people will quietly leave when they realize you are no longer easy to control. Others may react loudly and attempt to make you feel guilty for changing. They may call your calmness coldness, your boundaries selfishness, or your silence pride. But do not rush back to explain yourself to everyone. Growth does not require you to defend every right decision. Look at the outcome. If a boundary gives you greater peace, if distance makes you clearer, and if someone's departure prevents you from returning to an old cycle of pain, allow truth to stand. You can listen to sincere correction, but you do not need to bow before words designed only to pull you back into a more controllable version of yourself. I am not calling you into a season of conflict, but into calm authority. This authority does not need to shout, threaten, or make others afraid. It appears through knowing what you can accept, what must be refused, and what you will no longer negotiate with because it destroys peace. When others create chaos, you do not need to answer with greater chaos. You can speak one clear sentence and stop. You can leave an argument that leads nowhere. You can allow another person to keep their opinion without believing you must destroy it in order to become free. Your strength no longer lies in the ability to win every confrontation, but in recognizing which confrontations are unworthy of your time, attention, and energy. From now on, you will stop chasing what should naturally reveal mutuality. You will no longer pursue someone who gives vague signals and leaves you guessing where you stand. You will not beg for clarity from a person who benefits from your confusion, because they know that if you see the truth, you will no longer tolerate the way they treat you, nor will you negotiate your worth in exchange for a few moments of closeness. Another person's presence is not a gift when the price is your self-respect, safety, and ability to live authentically. You can love without pleading. You can care without clinging. You can remain open while keeping your eyes awake. The way you move will become different. You will no longer make hurried decisions merely to escape discomfort. You will know how to wait a little longer so that another person's actions reveal what their words cannot prove. You will not answer every provocation immediately because you understand that slowing down can protect you from many consequences. You will not tell every plan to people who have not shown that they know how to protect what you share. You will choose accuracy rather than noise, calmness rather than impression, and grounded steps rather than movement designed only to prove that you are not standing still. This restraint is not fear. It is evidence that you have learned to manage strength rather than allowing it to erupt without direction. Remember that revelation is not given first so that you may see every fault in everyone else, but so that you may see yourself clearly. You will recognize the places where you still desire approval, where you are vulnerable to former habits, and where old pain still attempts to influence your choices. Do not be ashamed when you see these places. Light does not come to condemn you, but to help you correct what once operated in darkness. Every time you become honest with yourself, praise, coldness, and guilt lose some of their ability to manipulate you. The more deeply you understand your own motives, the more difficult it becomes for others to use your inner emptiness to control you. Therefore, walk without rushing to prove that the new season has begun. Allow your life to reveal the change. Continue choosing integrity when there is no reward, self-control when no one is watching, and trust before the result appears. These choices brought you here, and they will preserve you in what is about to open. You are not damaged, not too late, and not forgotten. You were deepened before being expanded and strengthened before becoming visible. Now, move forward with the calmness of someone who no longer has to fight for their value. What is genuinely meant for you will recognize you. What survived only through your confusion will leave. And what is built upon truth will not require pressure to remain. You are not being guided only to change your own life, but also to open a new road through which your family may step out of cycles that have lasted for generations. What I am building within you does not stop with personal achievement, a professional door, or one private season of peace. It touches legacy, the way a household will think, love, manage, and rise after years of fracture. At this moment, many things may still appear disordered. Relationships may remain distant. Certain problems may still lack answers, and many plans may resemble scattered pieces. But do not use the present confusion to predict the ending. I am quietly straightening crooked roads, reconnecting what appeared impossible to join, and placing each person in the proper position. When the picture becomes clearer, you will understand that not one faithful step was wasted, and no season of waiting was completely empty. You are not a minor character standing at the edge of your family's story. You are an important part of what is being formed. Not because you are greater than others, but because you agreed to face what many people continued avoiding. You recognized that certain unhealthy habits had to end, that harmful ways of communicating needed to change, and that fears passed from one generation to another could no longer be permitted to rule. Those before you often knew only how to survive. So they handed down responses shaped by scarcity, silence, and defensiveness. I do not condemn them because most people can give only what they once received. But with you, I am opening a new awareness. You have the opportunity to preserve what is good, heal what became distorted, and close cycles that exhausted the entire family for too long. I know there were times when you concealed your journey because you feared your family would consider you too different. You remained silent about what you sensed, the lessons changing you, and the faith that helped you rise. You believed this was humility, but beneath it lived the fear that if you became fully authentic, you would be mocked, misunderstood, or separated from those you loved. Therefore, you made your light smaller, adjusted your words so that no one would feel uncomfortable, and concealed the obvious changes taking place. But humility does not mean denying the good work I am doing. Humility means recognizing that the source of change does not lie in your pride, and then allowing your life to become evidence of my presence. You do not need to speak loudly, force anyone to believe, or turn every conversation into a sermon. You need only to live with such consistency that your family cannot avoid recognizing that you have become more peaceful, wise, and loving. Perhaps the time has come to share part of what is being revealed, but do so gently. Do not enter the house with the desire to repair everyone. Do not use what you understand as a ruler for measuring their level of maturity. Every person awakens at a different pace, and what took you years to understand cannot be forced into another person's heart in one evening. Speak when there is an opening. Listen more than you argue, and allow love to guide truth. A word spoken peacefully may plant a seed, while pressure usually causes the heart to close. You are not responsible for making everyone change immediately. Your part is to remain faithful to what has been entrusted. Live what you believe, and be willing to speak when the proper time comes. At first, some will not understand. They may laugh lightly, roll their eyes, or assume that you are passing through an emotional phase. Some will question your motives and imagine that you want to appear superior or attract attention. Do not allow these reactions to make you hide again. They are looking at you through memories of who you used to be. So they need time to recognize that this change is not a temporary performance. You do not need to fight back or list every reason that proves your sincerity. Let time accomplish what words cannot. When you continue remaining calm in circumstances that once made you explode, continue loving while maintaining boundaries, and continue acting faithfully without applause, they will begin to see that a new foundation is being built within you. Do not wait for the day they recognize this so that you can use their approval to feed your ego. When those who once doubted you begin changing their perspective, receive it with compassion. They may never apologize in the way you hoped. Their acknowledgement may appear only through a small question, a moment when they seek your advice, or the way they quietly observe you. Recognize those movements without demanding that they kneel before the past. The purpose of confirmation is not to prove that you were right and they were wrong, but to open a door through which the entire family can draw nearer to truth. I am not lifting you so that you can stand above your relatives. I am making you steady enough to stand among them as a pillar of peace. Therefore, do not retreat when fear tells you that you are not ready. Fear often speaks in a voice that sounds reasonable. It tells you to wait longer, remain silent, and move only when everyone agrees. But at certain times, additional waiting is no longer caution. It becomes delay. You were prepared through misunderstanding, lonely seasons, and lessons that required you to mature faster than you wanted. You do not need every answer before entering your purpose. You need only enough honesty to admit what you do not know, enough humility to keep learning, and enough courage to take the step before you. I do not ask you to create the entire road. I ask only that you remain faithful to the light available today. The strength I give you is not aggression. It is the ability to stand firmly without making others afraid. The love I cultivate within you is not weakness that allows everyone to cross your boundaries. It is compassion, capable of speaking truth without humiliating anyone. The self-control I am building is not suppressing everything until you eventually explode. It is the ability to recognize emotion, return it to its proper place, and choose an action that does not destroy what you are trying to build. Your family does not need only someone who speaks beautiful words. They need to see someone capable of preserving peace when tension appears, apologizing when wrong, and refusing to use painful secrets as weapons during disagreement. A new legacy is built through choices like these. Every time you stop a bitter word before it leaves your mouth, you close part of an old cycle. Every time you care for a child through listening rather than fear, you create a different memory for the next generation. Every time you manage resources with discipline instead of chaos, you establish a foundation for stability. Every time you refuse to hide a problem, but still face it through love, you turn the home into a place where truth no longer means punishment. These things may not create immediate attention, but they will gradually change the direction of an entire family. A great tree begins with silent roots no one can see, and legacy is also born through small actions repeated faithfully. Guard your heart from impatience that wants everyone to change at once. I may have begun with you because you were ready to listen, but that does not mean you must force everyone to move at your speed. Let your presence become an invitation rather than pressure. When they stumble, do not look upon them with pride. When they return to former habits, do not immediately conclude that every effort was useless. You required much time to become who you are today. So offer them the patience you once needed. At the same time, family bonds do not require you to tolerate everything harmful. Love does not prevent you from establishing boundaries. There are people you may need to pray for from a safe distance until they are ready to respect what is right.